Good morning, dear friends. Welcome to one more session of the Conscious Living Spirits Group. We are very happy that you could join us this morning, in this beautiful morning here in Florida. And we have a nice friend that is going to join us. So welcome, Juan. It's a wonderful opportunity for us to start our week listening to the lessons of our love doctrine, the Spiritist doctrine. So while everybody's coming, we are going to start our morning with a reading from the book Happy Life that was psychographed by Divaldo Franco by the spirit of Joana de Angelis. And the text says, "You are immersed in the ocean of God's love. You are never alone. God is within and all around you. Discover him and let him lead you with wisdom. You are his heir, owner of the universe. Let his love permeate you completely, guiding you and your will and your steps, enabling you to grow with little or no suffering. In God, you find everything attain completeness." So this is a wonderful message. Remind us that we are not alone. God is with us and he's guiding us. We just need to allow that to happen. So we are going to start our morning. Good morning, Patricia. Good morning, Mary, and everyone that is arriving. If there is anyone coming for the first time and join us in a virtual Spiritist lecture from Conscious Living, you are welcome. Stay with us because we are going to always talk about a lesson that I'm sure in some way, somehow, is going to touch your heart. Good morning, Carlos. So I ask everyone to join us in a prayer. So let's elevate our thoughts to dear Father, Jesus, and the good spirits that are here with us. We are so thankful and grateful for one more day, one more opportunity for us to learn, and one more opportunity for us to calm our heart and allow Jesus' lesson enter in our heart so can manifest in our life. Help, dear Lord, as we read, allowed us to be with you because we understand you are always with us. Help us all together be with you today and always. Particularly, we pray, dear Lord, for the good spirits to assess and guide our dear friend Marcia that so generously came to share her learning, her studies from the Spiritist doctrine in this very special day with us. So we ask all that in Jesus' name. So be it. Okay. Good morning, Gisele. Good morning, Bonnie. So we are all happy and we introduce our dear friend, Marcia Trajano. Marcia, it's such a joy to be with you this morning. So for people who doesn't know Marcia, she comes from Nashville. She was before in Atlanta. Now she is blessed with the opportunity to live in Nashville. And I would like to congratulate you and all the group of people that just inaugurate a new center in Nashville, brought one more door of light, a spark of light in Nashville, one more light in Nashville, a big one. And the center is called the Solitude Center for Spiritual Living. I love the naming. It's going to touch many people's heart. I love the name you guys gave. So, and also in name of conscious living, we particular would like to thank you because today is your birthday. So happy birthday, such a special day. We're celebrating Chico Xavier's birthday yesterday, your birthday, and today is also Susanna's birthday. Susanna, anywhere you are, happy birthday to you too. So our hug, happy birthday, and thank you so much for being here and you share with us your studies. So I'm gonna go and give you the word for you. So it's all yours, honey. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Abigail. Thank you, everyone. It is truly a great joy, a great gift to be here to speak about who? Chico Xavier. So this is, I see such a great opportunity because as we start to talk about it, we need to ask, well, mediumship. What is mediumship, right? And simply put, for anyone who has who's new to spiritism, mediumship is the communication between two worlds. So it's in between the material world and the spiritual world. There is a medium, and those two dimensions come together through the mediumship of in this case, Chico Xavier. How does it work? How do these channels of communication work between the living and the dead? Well, Allan Kardec in 1861 published the Medium's book, and this is the second of five of the basic works, the fundamental works of Spiritism, and Allan Kardec defined there all of the phenomena with a special focus on those who are able to communicate through psychography, which is the message that is done via the written word. We are not going to talk about mediumship in general, but we're going to talk about the most famous, the most well known medium of all times, the Brazilian medium Chico Xavier. Let me see if I can go through the next slide. Yes. So, so there are many, many, many books written about Chico. In fact, there are movies about him, and we stop here as we just celebrated 112 years of his birth yesterday. So April 2nd was 1910 was when he was born, but we stop to say, Marcia, who was Chico? Chico was a simple man. He was poor. He was born poor. He lived his entire life as a poor man. He was the son of illiterate parents, and he himself had received just a short period of life in his education. But most of all, he was infamous. He became the source of so much scandals and news. And it all started when this man, this poor, humble man with his eyes closed, was able to write messages. And let's say it, we call it in spirit is discarded, but message from the dead people. The visual imagery of the sixth sense comes to my mind, right? But in doing that, in writing those messages, he actually led a life where he was persecuted, he was mistrusted, he was humiliated. And at the same time, throughout his life, he also became an idol. And this idol was of mythic proportions to me and many other people in Brazil. How did he do it? He gave all he had. Chico gave his life, his time, his energy, his patience while he worked as a medium. He became known as the most devoted worker in this field of mediumistic activity. And it's very important for us to just pause and say, right, of all the things that we're going to be talking today, he never touched in any of the proceeds of the work that he's done. So the revenue, pretty much all of the revenue of the sales of his books went to charity. So as a result, as I said before, Chico's life was one of modest living, and so beautiful to say this. He is someone whose sole focus, whose whole mission in life was to give us, you and me, all of us, the human race on this planet, the ability to understand life, to understand the meaning of love, but most importantly, the meaning of our immortality, the immortality of our souls. He relinquished everything for this mission. His commitment to spreading spiritism and spreading the idea of love in action, of charity, through his life. The book by Marcel Sotomayor that became the basis for the book Chico Xavier in 2010 is really interesting because in the account of writing and meeting Chico for those time in preparation for his work, his book, Marcel Sotomayor talks about the worst of it all is that Chico relinquished his own privacy. He exposed himself and his life. So there are really no boundaries between what he did and who he was. So a little bit about his life. Chico, as I said before, was born on April 2nd, 1910. And many of you may know he was able to talk to spirits from a very, very early age. His mother unfortunately died when he was only 5, and his father, who had 9 kids, was unable to take care of all of them. So, as it was a practice in Brazil at the time, he kind of moved the children to many different families, and Chico went to live with his godmother. Um, don't know why, but Chico, just a young 5-year-old Chico, he lived, uh, in addition to the loss of his family, his sibling, his father, and his mother, he suffered tremendously because his godmother was very cruel, and she tortured him, she punished him, and in today's world, there was physical and emotional abuse while he was a young child. There are many accounts of that. It's actually not easy to read about it. Once upon a time, I had the idea, a crazy idea, to speak about that time in the life of Chico in my youth. No, it was not youth education. It was children's education to very young ones, so kids at about the same age as Chico, and it created a lot of discomfort for those children. So we had to redirect this conversation, right? But it's very interesting. While he was suffering a great deal, um, Chico could have access to his mom. So Maria João de Deus, she passed away, but she was also a source of comfort for him. And during those years, those early years, she would remind him that Chico, listen and learn about endurance, about patience, and most of all, resignation. So while there was a pain, to be resigned, not to suffer. Good news, his father was remarried, and all the children were reunited, and life returned to a sense of normalcy for him, as we expected, right? Not so, because Ashiko was, his mediumship was very fragrant. So he would see and he would talk and he would communicate with spirits, discarnate spirits. And his own father was quite concerned, and he was afraid that he was crazy. In fact, he that was the issue here, and Shiko's father was actually expected to put him in, hospitalize him as due to mental illness. And it was a Catholic priest, Father Scarzelli, that while he examined Chico, he said, no, he does not need to be hospitalized, but he needs to work. He needs to stop getting into so much imagination and reading. So just get him to work. So very, very young, Chico started to work. And again, another lesson in his life, the lesson of discipline, of resistance and endurance throughout the long day that he worked. He went to school, right? But when he turned 14, he finished primary school. He never went back, but he kept on working. He helped his family. And when he turned 17, and I say this and I read this, and I want all of us to start thinking about what were we doing when we were 17? Well, 17, Shiku's angel, right? His stepmom passed. And it was the year that his mom told him, Shiku, you need to start studying Allan Kardec. And that's when he started his journey with Spiritism. In June, he founded the Spiritist Center Luis Gonzaga, which was just a little warehouse, right? A little shekel almost, right? Shack. And within a month, the next month, so June, July, under the guidance of, at the time, a benevolent spirit, he started to psychograph. And we talk about not just one little sentence. He actually, within a month of opening that center, he was already writing a message that was 17 pages long. Don't know what are you doing when you're 17. I was not psychographing. But let's talk a little bit about the work, right? Because it's really where the work of Chico that is amalgamizes all of us. His work. Well, 1931 is a pivotal year. So we start when he was only 17, so 4 years before. In 1931, Shiku starts to psychograph a seminal work, which was unfortunately not translated into English, Parnaso de Além Túmulo in Portuguese. And this is really important to everyone and to Chico as well. That's when he met his spiritual mentor, formerly Emmanuel, and Emmanuel started to talk to him when he was only 21, that he had a mission, and his mission was to psychograph not one, but a sequence of 30 books. And I just keep thinking, right? What are the statistics? And if you Google and you ask, okay, I've never written a book, and I'm a beginner. I'm going to devote my life, 100% of my life, to write a book. What is the average number of books that somebody like me could write? Well, 7 in my lifetime. Okay. Now I have an education, and I would have the time to do this. Chico had neither. And Emmanuel says, you're going to do 30 books. So he said, of course, for Chico to achieve that, he would have to, boy, have a lot of discipline and discipline and discipline. And I think it's really important for us to stop. What would you do if you were given the task? And I have to confess that I don't know. I don't know what would I do. So the first night, I start to pause and connect with my benefactor, and I write, and all the questions and doubts and desires and interactions with life itself would come and say, oh, tomorrow. Well, not so. He devoted himself, and I wanted to say to you, and I don't know if you're a fan or not, but in the US, Stephen King, who is considered one of the most prolific writers of all time, right? He has published, he's in his 70s, he has published 64 books. And he's known to have an entire group of people actually filling in, helping create the stories, which is fiction, right? But anyways, Emmanuel, not like many of what we think the idea of our mentors, right? He told Chico, no, you're gonna do it. You're gonna do it with discipline. lesson of discipline, of resistance and endurance throughout the long day that he worked. He went to school, right? But when he turned 14, he finished primary school. He never went back, but he kept on working. He helped his family. And when he turned 17, and I say this and I read this, and I want all of us to start thinking about what were we doing when we were 17? Well, 17, Chico's angel, right? His stepmom passed. And it was the year that his mom told him, Chico, you need to start studying Allan Kardec. And that's when he started his journey with Spiritism. In June, he founded the Spiritist Center Luis Gonzaga, which was just a little warehouse, right? A little shekel almost, right? Shack. And within a month, the next month, so June, July, under the guidance of, at the time, a benevolent spirit, he started to psychograph. And we talk about not just one little sentence. He actually, within a month of opening that center, he was already writing a message that was 17 pages long. Don't know what are you doing when you're 17. I was not psychographing. But let's talk a little bit about the work, right? Because it's really where the work of Chico that is amalgamizes all of us. His work. Well, 1931 is a pivotal year. So we start when he was only 17, so 4 years before. In 1931, Chico starts to psychograph a seminal work, which was unfortunately not translated into English, Parnaso de Além Túmulo in Portuguese. And this is really important to everyone and to Chico as well. That's when he met his spiritual mentor, formerly Emmanuel, and Emmanuel to start to talk to him when he was only 21, that he had a mission, and his mission was to psychograph not one, but a sequence of 30 books. And I just keep thinking, right? What are the statistics? And if you Google and you ask, okay, I've never written a book, and I'm a beginner. I'm going to devote my life, 100% of my life, to write a book. What is the average number of books that somebody like me could write? Well, 7 in my lifetime. Okay. Now I have an education, and I would have the time to do this. Chico had neither. And Emmanuel says, you're going to do 30 books. So he said, of course, for Chico to achieve that, he would have to, have a lot of discipline and discipline and discipline. And I think it's really important for us to stop. What would you do if you were given the task? And I have to confess that I don't know. I don't know what would I do. So the first night, I start to pause and connect with my benefactor, and I write, and all the questions and doubts and desires and interactions with life itself would come. And so, oh, tomorrow. Well, not so. He devoted himself. And I wanted to say to you, and I don't know if you're a fan or not, but in the US, Stephen King, who is considered one of the most prolific writers of all time, right? He has published, he's in his 70s, he has published 64 books. And he's known to have an entire group of people actually filling in, helping create the stories, which is fiction, right? But anyways, Emmanuel, not like many of what we think the idea of our mentors, right? He told Chico, no, you're going to do it. You're going to do with discipline, and you're going to do with Jesus and Kardec. So back to Parnaso de Além Túmulo, which is roughly translated Parnassus from beyond the tomb, right? So as it was not translated into English. And by the way, I just went into Amazon and I got it Kindle version for free. So anyone who's interested in this really important book, I would say go ahead and look to see if it's still at that amazing price. Just a joke here. But this book, which contains over 200 poems, right, and is a psychography from over 50 poets, Portuguese and Brazilian, well known, most of them. And we have to stop. This is Chico's first book, first published book. And in a time, 1930s, that is really hard to fathom the acceptance of spiritism, of spirituality, of the idea of reincarnation, or even the idea beyond reincarnation of communication. And there is this young man who has had no, pretty much no formal education to write 200, over 200 poems from over 50 poets. Um, and it was really important to understand that at time it caused such a strong reaction from the literary community, because while people said this is crazy, this is fraud, it is impossible, others who read and reviewed said it is impossible not to be a psychography. So, why do we talk so much about this book? Because it's really a true milestone for us to think about it. It is the first time that a collection of poems that were inspired by spirits confirm the survival of the soul. And it's just important for us to think of that. Who would have imagined that? But to me, this book, the publication of this book specifically, 1931, marks the beginning of Chico's extraordinary talent and gift in his own journey as a medium. He became, as we know, the greatest. He became the most respected promoter of spiritism in the world. In from the standpoint of copyright, Chico from that point on granted the copyright to all his books to the Brazilian Spiritist Federation, or FEB, as many of you may know. So let's talk a little bit about André Luiz. Among all his books, all of them, André Luiz and Nosso Lar specifically is the one book that has the largest circulation. It was published, let's say, 31 to 44, so 13 years later. It has sold more than 2 million copies. And this spiritual author, André Luiz, starts with Nosso Lar as the first in a series of a total of 17 books that he wrote in partnership with with Chico, and sometimes with Valdo Vieira. This book is so important for us to stop to think about it again, because it has indeed an enormous impact to spiritists and non-spiritists alike. Why? Because André Luiz reviews what is the daily life of life after life, right? What is that daily life? What does it look like? What happens after we die? When we die? What is that process? What is the feelings? What are the emotions that happen and bind those who move on to the spiritual world and those who are left behind? So it's very important because it also gives us through his words the idea that we immortal spirits, we spirits that are living a material life, need to continuously grow, continuously evolve in our spiritual journey, and we need to learn and we need to improve. There are many books written by Andre Luis, as I said, a total of 17, and most of them have been already translated and published in English. If we go to the other spiritual author that has worked with sorry, yes, thank you. That worked very closely with Chico Emmanuel, his mentor. It's important to note that he has worked with him very closely throughout his life, but there are many books that he wrote that are now translated into English, and I'm gonna show them to you, the list, but it's very easy to find, right? It's important to recognize the effort to be able to bring those amazing books and stories to life in an accessible manner for those of us who are living here in the US. But who was Emmanuel? Emmanuel, in previous incarnation, was the Roman senator Publius Lentulus. And as many of you who may have read about Emmanuel, he was reborn as a slave, and then he, in another reincarnation, he was the priest Manuel da Nóbrega, who was lived in Brazil. Emmanuel as a mentor, as I said earlier, he gave Chico the goal, the task. Okay, Chico, 30 books, right? And it is just funny because in many of the books it talks about the life of Chico. Chico said, no problem, I got you 30 books, right? So when he finished his first quota, Emmanuel comes to him and he says, hey, Chico, and those are my words, now that you have finished your first 30 books, I'm going to double that. You have a new goal of 60 books. Remember what I said? Stephen King in his 70s, 64 books with a cadre of people, an entire, what I call factory of people helping him. And I said, my goodness, Emmanuel, what are you doing with Chico? Yes, 60 books. And he says, no problem. And he keeps on living life and working. And once he reached that goal of 60 books, what happens? He says, well, this is Emmanuel. Well, Chico, my words again, I'm just dramatizing. We have a new task that came from Jesus. You now have to do 100. And he said he got to 100, right? No problem, Emmanuel. And I just keep thinking, 100 books. That is beyond anything that we see in our material world of authors, right? He does it at 100. He is getting old, He's in reaching his 60s now, and Chico is ready to retire. I think, Abigail, he's ready to go to Florida and go to the beach and relax. And Emmanuel told him he really, he had bad news because he really had to spend his entire life writing more books. And teasingly, Chico says, well, we all know about free will, right? So I can say no more books, Emmanuel. And Emmanuel says, oh, of course, you have free will, Chico. You can choose not to write more books. And Chico, again, teasingly says, okay, no more books. I'm tired. And Emmanuel comes back to him and says, well, I have a new decree, and this decree comes all the way from Jesus, Chico. If you don't wish to write more books, your life will end tomorrow. And of course, the joke is that he accepted the challenge. He spent his entire life writing to the tunes of 469 books that he wrote. So, if we talk a little bit about the life of Chico, right? We must think about what was it like to live as Chico, right? And if you look at it, there's so many books about that life, the struggles. And for me, for you, it's quite difficult to understand how could someone do so much, right? It as a in throughout his he started young to work, and his life, his full adult life, he worked as a clerk, and he just worked, and he worked hard all his life. And during the days, his he would go to work. At night, he would do the exercise of psychography, in other words, to write those books as it was communicated to them. And well, maybe a couple of days a week, he would also would go to the center, and he would help anyone who needed comfort in writing messages. Those are the famous, actually, letters that he wrote to those who were unconsoled by the loss of a dear, a loved one. How was it? How did it work? He actually would say finish work early evening. I would say early evening in Brazil, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. He would go to the center and he would write until sometimes 4 or 5 in the morning, and begin again his next day. So it is a tiring, is a dedication, it is a life that not many people would do, and it is really something that you see. He lived a life of love. He lived a life of commitment. He lived a life of sharing that commitment to mediumship specifically. As we all know, he refused all payments, and the payments went to Fabi that then invested in charitable. When once upon a time he was granted a large sum through the will, in this case was Fred Finger's will, and he immediately granted to Feb that money. He did not benefit from any at all. He died um, 20 years ago, June 30th, and he was 92. For any of you, for any of you who is a fan of soccer, it's very interesting because Chico, and he was not well for a while now, and he just said, God, please let me go in a day that the Brazilians will be happy, so that they will not be sad. And sure enough, the 30th of June of 2002, it was the last time Brazilians won a World Cup. It was the first time any team throughout the world became a fifth champion for the fifth time, and he went peacefully, and nobody was really, there was so much happiness that did not impact the country. um, I wanted to just share with you, and what I call the impact is just a list of books that are the most well-known books. With those in bold are the ones, and as you can see, it's in the order of publication, right? Those in bold are the ones that have been translated into English. And my second list and my third list. So we are, I believe, we're lucky to have so many books already translated for us, and they're readily available for anyone. But I think when we talk about impact, we're really talking about that life of a service, that life as a servant, right? And it's important as we say this, that it should be clear in all of us that while he served, and he served with love, he did not, he did not have by any means an easy life. He Yet he, I'm sure, felt fulfilled in that life that he led. He insisted throughout his life, right, as his 92 years of age, that he did not write anything, write in terms of authorship. But what did he do? He psychographed over 460 books. In 2012, October, the channel, Brazilian channel SBT, televised a show that was the greatest Brazilian of all times, and a little bit, I guess, like Survivor or other or Idol, right, where you collect the votes of the people, the viewership, and it went in through waves. And Chico was considered the greatest Brazilian of all times. His competition, well, Irmã Dulce, a Catholic nun, well known. Ayrton Senna, the Formula One driver, pilot. Santos Dumont, the founder of aviation in Brazil. Is Princess Isabel, who was the person responsible for freeing or abolishing slavery, and Pelé, right? So he went through all of those people that are very dear and known to Brazilians. And we're talking about the entire country, right? He was recognized, and he won the vote, and he was named the greatest Brazilian of all times. I would recommend, I don't know if you can see it, this book in English. It really reads so well. You can read it maybe in a day or two. It's a very thin book by Guy Playfair, and he talks about Chico as the medium of the century. Love the book, so I highly recommend that. Um, in 2010, so 2010 was a 100-year anniversary of Chico's birth. There were many things happening that year. He had the biopic movie, and the biopic. Sorry, I don't know if I can do my. I lost my ability to use my mouse, so I don't know if I can do this. My apologies. So, anyways, in 2010, he there was the biopic movie Chico Xavier. It's in English, and I don't know if you like it, but it's easily accessible. It is in Netflix. You can find it, or Amazon Prime, a movie, etc. And the movie specifically was made based on Marcel Sotomayor, who also is a great author, and it's really good reading his books. The books that I read are in Portuguese, so As Lições de Chico Xavier is a really cool one. He 2010, Nosso Lar, remember, 2 million copies sold. Nosso Lar was also released as a movie, a really amazing production, Brazilian production. But I remember quite well when we were able to see it here in the US, and was very happy to see such a faithful portrayal of that book. Same year, there was a stamp commemorating Chico Xavier's 100-year anniversary. In 2006, and I'm trying to get my notes here so that I don't say things that are untrue, but in 2006, another magazine, Época, Brazilian magazine, elected him as the greatest Brazilian. And it's important to note that not so many years prior to that, in 2000, he was considered the Minas, the state that he was born, citizen of the century. And it's very interesting because we have a very famous people from Minas, including our Brazilian beloved president, Juscelino Kubitschek, or Alberto Santos Dumont, and they're all there. But Chico again kept going, and that's from that sense that I talk about how throughout a life of difficulties, he was actually idolized by many. In 1981, Chico was nominated by 10 million, more than 10 million people nominated him to receive the Nobel Peace Prize. Unfortunately, he did not receive that, but it's quite an impressive feat for me. And in the 1960s and 70s, he appeared on various TV shows, and it is my belief that those appearances in shows is what spearhead this spreading, this dissemination, this popularization of Spiritism, the knowledge of Spiritism, and established by many in Brazil the idea that you are you're following Spiritism as a religion. And today we are considered to have 5 million Spiritists in Brazil alone. But we're not in Brazil, right? Outside of Brazil, many people have no idea who in the world is Chico Xavier. So it's very important for us, as we're doing here today in this beautiful Sunday morning, as Abigail said, that if we talk about it as known to us as it is, if we are Brazilian, it's very important that we know a little bit to introduce, to identify for the person who does not know him, right? He is, to me, he is considered to be the person, the one person to spark, to rekindle that spark of interest in Spiritism in the entire body of work throughout the world. And he left a beautiful legacy, because he not only through his books, but he talked to us about what is that life, right? Life after life, the continuity of life. So for me, Chico, his mediumship of love is to open this great mystery that is to live, to die, and to continue to live. So, sorry, I want to go back one slide before we close. Why, why Chico? Why Chico? Do we have time, Abigail? I don't know if I have a little bit more time to talk about not only why, but the accusations that he went through. And if we do, I will continue talking, okay? Chico, boy, he was criticized. He was accused. He was attacked. For those of us who does not believe in reincarnation, the work that Chico did was, anything that he did was fabricated. So donations, his presentations about love and fraternity, solidarity, the letters of comfort, all of this was actually seen as a complex and well orchestrated form of mystification, if not welfare alone. So, Chico, as a child, he was considered mad, crazy, cuckoo. During his childhood, Chico had suffered a string of punishment or abuse. As an adult, he was humiliated. And when he was humiliated, what did he do? He was passive. He did not respond. He was slapped, physically slapped, and people would spit in his face, and he would not respond. He suffered three life-threatening attacks by gun, by knife, and by poison. If he actually received any honors, which he received, he was accused of being Chico, you are so vain. If he was interviewed on TV, he was accused, Chico, you are an exhibitionist. All you want is the limelight. When he refused to receive donation, he said, oh, Chico, you are so rude. You are so ungrateful. And when he was accused of greed, he was accused that all he did his life was to want to be wealthy, and that she could start to laugh because it is a joke, right? And his respond, one can never fail or fall down if you never stood up. So, in other words, those accusations really meant nothing to him because he never once benefited or took any money ever. So, it's important that with so many accusations, so many difficulties, right? He accused of being criticized and accused of being the fraud, and he at some point he could not handle it, and he just prayed and he prayed and he prayed to Mary, right, the mother of Jesus, please help me, this is too much. And Emmanuel, his mentor, came with a message from her, and she said, and this is a message for all of us, this too shall pass. And with that, Chico, wrote the message, and he would read day and night. And this is actually gets me quite emotional because it's something that is important for all of us. This too shall pass. This material life, the good and the bad, shall pass. And it's important for us to know that. Um, Most recently, 2010, he was accused, and he was accused by Mori, Kentaro Mori, saying that, oh, all of those letters that have so many, verification that are precise, including the signatures, they, Kentaro Mori would accuse that it was all fabricated by the staff of the Spiritist Center. But I wanted to leave here with something that Pedro Bloch said, and he wrote this in 1950s. He said, and I'm going to read, what a divine impostor he must be to live the life he does of humility and abnegation, to renounce that surprising work whose authorship he denies, to keep himself isolated in little interior town when fame and fortune would be welcome him with open arms. To find the way to salvation, humanity needs a few million Chico Xavier, even if we do not write a single message, because Chico himself is already a message. So Chico indeed has become a legend in Brazil, yet he is virtually unknown in the English speaking world. So, with that, I would say, what can we do with what we know about Chico? I want to thank you. I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here to celebrate Chico's 112th anniversary of his birth, and to be here. Susanna, happy birthday. And wanted to say also yesterday with the formal launch of our new center in Nashville, Tennessee, I just want to say thank you so much. I wanted, hi, Abigail.
Hi. You want to talk a little bit about your center?
Yes, yes. If I have time, so just let me
Yeah, we have a
know.
few minutes. Yes.
Very good. So thank you, Abiel, for asking me here. I'm really appreciative of being here, and wanted to say that Solitude Center for Spiritual Living was founded. Created. The concept was created several years ago when we first started studying more deeply the work by Joanna De Angelis, the psychological series. And about a year ago, as we are second year in the pandemic, right, in isolation, we somehow connected, and it's pure, we say, a serendipity. Several of us who, like me, and I moved a year ago to Nashville, who were found somewhere in the world without a center to go to. It's very interesting. And we just said, well, let's get together. Let's create something that is 100% virtual, as most of us are doing this work virtually. Let's get together. So we've been studying, and at some point, we just said, well, Nashville, where I live, there is no center. We started, as you said, Abigail, we turned on the little light to shine here in the city, and we will be providing the work through studies of the work of Jonah De Angelis in English and Portuguese. We're going to do for now a prayer circle in English as well. So with that, I just say, if you have time, go visit our Facebook page or Instagram page, and we're about to publish our website as well.
Thank you for sharing with us. So every spark of light that can support us in this moment, bringing peace to this world, is so welcome. So
Yes.
we wish all the best in this path. Okay. Just want
Thank
to
you.
say thank you for this wonderful talk. It's always wonderful to remember about Chico Xavier. That's for sure. For me, he's the most pure example of Jesus' lesson. How
Yes.
to practice Jesus' lesson is very tangible because he was right here with us. So it's very inspiring. So thank you very much for sharing that. Okay. Would you care to do our final prayer for us? Would be
I would
very
love
nice.
to.
Because
Thank you.
I know you're inspired by all the talk and it will be gratefully appreciated. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So, if we may take a moment to just close our eyes and connect with the spirits of light who are here today blessing all of us in this moment that we come together to be inspired by the life of Chico Xavier. As we continue our journeys on earth, may we all be touched by the knowledge that the work, the commitment to grow, to evolve, to understand the longevity of our immortal soul and the impact that we all may have on this material life. May we all be blessed with the love, the docility, the gentility in our hearts and our mind. Dear Lord, Father, bless all of us who are here, our families, family members, our friends, all of those that are so-called our enemies, all the difficult friends, the difficult ones. May they all be touched by our love, and may we be touched by the awareness of everything in our lives happen to make us better. So be it.
So be it. Thank you very much again, Marcia, and happy birthday again. Enjoy your, it was so graceful of you on your birthday. So many blessings to you, my friend. My virtual hug for you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much, dear friends. Hope to see you all back next week. Have a wonderful day, everyone.